This is episode 215 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with my guest, Mark Podolsky, also known as the Land Geek. Mark has completed over 5,000 land deals for his company, Frontier Equity Properties. He's also the author of the book, Dirt Rich, which, if you can really figure it out, it's about land investing. Mark, welcome to the show.
Jonathan Green, thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and you've actually been doing this since 2001, so you're not new to the land business. Why did you first get involved in land?
So I was a miserable, micromanaged 45-minute commute to work and back investment banker, specializing in mergers and acquisitions with private equity groups. And this is in 2000. And Jonathan, it got so bad for me that I wouldn't get the Sunday blues anticipating Monday coming around. I'd get the Friday blues, anticipating the weekend going by really fast, and having to be back to work on Monday. So my firm hires this guy, and he's telling me that as a side hustle, he's flipping raw land, and he's making a 300% return on his investment. He's going to these tax deed auctions, flipping it.
Yeah.
So I'm from Missouri. I'm from St. Louis, the show me state. I don't believe him. So, because, I'm looking at companies all day long. And, great company has 15% EBITDA margins or free cash flow. Average company's 10%. I'm looking at companies all day long, less than 10%.
Right.
So I've got $3,000 saved up for car repairs. I go to New Mexico with him. I do exactly what he tells me to do. I buy 10 half-acre parcels, an average price of $300 each. I flip them online, and they all sell for an average price of $1,200 each at work. So I took all that money and went to another auction in Arizona, which is where I live. And again, it's 2000. There's no one in the room.
Yeah.
And I'm buying up lots and acreage for nothing. And so I sold all that land and I made over $90,000 cash. So I go to my wife and she's pregnant. I said, honey, I'm going to quit my job and become a full-time land investor. And she said, absolutely not. So I said, okay. So it took 18 months for the land investing income to exceed the investment banking income. And then I quit. I've been doing it full-time ever since and absolutely love it. Now we're we're over 6,500 deals in counting.
Yeah. I mean, kudos to your wife, though, because you only had two proof of concepts at that point. So it was smart to say, hey, let's get a little bit more runway going. And isn't that what's important about people who are thinking to get into land flipping and to leave their W-2? You really want to get the runway and then some, just to make sure that you've got it down. You obviously made a great return on those two, but I really credit your wife for saying, you know what, why don't you do a little more on the side before we go full time on this?
No, it was great advice. And, when you're in that situation, it's just very emotional and you need somebody who's not as emotional to, be the voice of reason. 100%.
What are the pitfalls of land investing just in general? A top couple where people could get themselves in trouble by either, I guess, getting too excited about it, like you almost did after those first two deals.
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest mistake that I've seen newbies make is it's a fear-based decision. So they'll buy a piece of land and then they'll stop their deal flow.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I'm not buying any more land until I sell this piece of land. And then, it's a 6 to 8 week lag time. So that's like the first mistake is just fear. I think the second mistake could potentially just be overpaying, not really studying the market. And that could potentially be a pitfall. I don't see it too often, but that potentially could be the big mistake. And because we're not buying in New Jersey or Pennsylvania or Ohio, these highly industrialized areas, we're not having to worry about super fun sites.
Yeah.
But if you were, I would go to a website like EPA.gov and make sure I'm not buying in a super fun site. Yeah. So I think as long as you have confidence in the model, you don't suck your deal flow, you don't overpay, and you avoid environmental issues, you can really avoid the big, say, 3 issues you're going to find that could, really knock you out of the system.
So one thing I wanted to ask is when you're looking for land, are you just running the list and because you're so experienced, you're taking pretty much whatever comes out at a value? Whereas there's land that can be more developable for developers, which may cost more, but also may have a bigger windfall. I mean, how much are you focusing and how much do you think someone new should focus on more like niche land investing, which could be trying to find things before the bigger companies want to buy it, where there's maybe a bigger scale, but again, harder to pinpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I've done development deals where, you buy, you subdivide. It's tremendous, business opportunity,
Yeah.
tremendous returns. But you got to come in with million. Where if I'm just starting out, I want to just test it. I
Yeah.
want to dip my toe in the water. I want to get confident in it. I want to build my systems and my processes, my software, my team, and make it a machine before I want to go out and really expand my circle of competency, if you will, in doing these larger deals. So yeah, I mean, if I were starting out, I'd want to buy 5 to 7 properties. So I'd look at my budget and I would just divide by 5 or 7.
Yeah.
Say, okay, when I'm doing my county research, I'd stick into that budget.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's great advice. And again, I think it's something where the landscape of things are changing. People are going to seek other opportunities. And when you have something that's so low input, again, like as we were saying, the business doesn't go well. You don't have to go all in. You can keep trying it slowly along the time. And then one hits and you get excited and you're like, oh, okay, there is some value in this. And yeah, every time I get off a land show, I'm like, it just seems smart. I don't know why I never, and I have owned land. I own land right now that I want to develop. And I've gotten lots of calls over the years. Hey man, never done anything with this in 25 years. It's because, yeah, my dad just bought weird stuff and left it to me for, I don't know what to do, but now I think I know what to do.
Yeah, there you go.
What percentage of land are you buying that is off market? And I would include just not listed on a public site that you do the outreach for versus listed somewhere, even if that's Facebook Marketplace and not like a traditional MLS.
Yeah. So on the buy side, I'm going to get a list from, let's say, like a datatree.com. And then I'll get that list. I'll scrub that list, say by use code, let's say VL for vacant land. Now I've got rid
Yeah.
of all the houses, commercial property, industrial properties. And then from there, I'll price that list as we were talking about, and I'll send out those offers.
Yeah.
And so I really want to go and get that piece of land before it goes to any type of auction. I certainly don't want them to go into a realtor.
Yeah.
And so
You're
that
just adding the percentages on that
just
one.
adding percentage there. So that's really how I'm going to get the majority of my deal flow. Now, that being said, because I've been doing this for so long, this is for somebody who's more mature in the business. You'll find that as your capital grows, your deal flow will grow.
Yeah.
And so a tax lien fund who has, they bought, a mistake, right? It's going to be a spreadsheet deal.
Yeah.
They'll come to us as well.
Yeah.
People that have large portfolios and they need cash for their next big acquisition, they'll sell us land notes.